The story of the Knights Templar goes back to 1099 when Catholic troops from Europe took over the city of Jerusalem from Muslim control during the First Crusade. The Knights of Templars didn't necessarily exist. This group was initiated by Hugues de Payens with his 8 friends in 1118. Payens' goal in forming the Knights of Templar is to protect the property and lives of Christian pilgrims who come from various corners of Europe. At the beginning of its formation, the Knights of Templar were very short on life. The members also dress in rags and have weapons as they are. To counter these attacks, the French knight Hugues de Payens created a military unit of 8 other soldiers called the Knights of Christ Papa of the Temple of Solomon, later known as the Knights Templar. This elite knight unity while vowing to protect all Christian pilgrims who come to Jerusalem. Over time, these knights accumulated wealth that the pilgrims gave in return for their protection. The strength of the Knights Templar grew rapidly in 1139 and began to spread beyond Jerusalem when Pope Innocent II granted a number of privileges, including tax exemptions anywhere in the world and the right to deposit gifts from pilgrims who came to the Holy Land. In the same year, King Louis VII donated property to the Knights in the northeastern city of Paris where they established their headquarters. Although its members come from various countries, the Knights Templar is a French organization and its founder is French. Furthermore, almost every top leader of the organization was French and so the country became the center of Templar power in Europe. King Philip, who ruled France at that time, hated the country within the country, the Knights Templar, so he was determined to destroy the organization at any cost. King Philip's motives have been debated so far, although many academics believe his determination was motivated by financial reasons. Indeed, as a king, Philip did not need to explain his motives. So that on October 13, 1307, he arrested a number of knights and Jacques de Molay as the supreme leader of the Knights Templar on charges of devil worship, blasphemy, idolatry, and homosexuality. In general, the Templars indeed obliged their members to uphold one principle, namely being willing to live very simply. Gradually, however, the Knights Templar began to have a lot of financial support as well as getting paid. As a result, these troops are actually well off. It is even known that the Templars provided some kind of credit assistance. The crusades that occurred during this long period of time were divided into several parts. One of the most phenomenal is the Hattin War. In this war, the commander of the Knights of Templar, Reynald de Chatillon, led the mass attack on Saladin al-Ayyubi. The battle involved as many as 20,000 Templars. In this war Chatillon carried out a cunning strategy by inviting Saladin to make a truce. However, while inside the Templars, Saladin was beaten up. Fortunately the leader brought a lot of troops, so he survived the assassination. In fact, during this incident the Templars were defeated. The beginning of the destruction of the Knights of Templar. Despite being defeated several times by al-Ayyubi's troops, the Templars were still seen as a strong force with classy prestige. Until finally this turned 180 degrees because of the egoism of a king. According to historical records, this started with Philip IV, the King of France, who asked the Templars for financial assistance. Unfortunately, the Holy Army refused to assist the king for special reasons. Philip's purpose for borrowing money was to support the costs of his wars. Perhaps because he was hurt that the Templars were not helped. Then Philip planned a scenario to bring this army down. Initially it was a bit difficult to do this, because the Pope and the kings of Europe still had strong support for the Templars. However, in the end this scenario worked and became the beginning of the downfall of the greatest army of its time. The massacre of the Templars and the end of the famous knights. The scenario created by King Philip was none other than slandering the Templars for their heretical teachings. At first, this was not immediately believed until it became a kind of polemic. Until then the belief strengthened about that even though according to the Templars themselves they did not commit this heresy. This slander later became the path of death for the Holy Knights. Many of the Templars were executed, including the highest-ranking leader named Jacques de Molay. This man flatly rejected the notion of heresy and was then also turned off. The method itself is quite sadistic, namely by being burned alive. King Philip was certainly pleased. Looking this, apart from successfully killing the Templars, he was also splashed with the treasures of these troops that were left in France. This is the end of the story of the most influential army in European history. It is unfortunate that these troops must disappear even though it is extraordinary. All of this is because of a scenario devised by King Philip. About this one figure, There is a story that Philip was condemned to death by Jacques. Miraculously, this curse worked. 7 months after the death of the Templar leader, the French king was really doomed.